Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a psychologist at Counseling and Psychological Services at the University of Arkansas. This is my first mindfulness and crochet video, and the purpose of the video is to help you find an hour or two out of your time to find some focus and center your thoughts. Many of our clients are experiencing anxiety during this stressful time. Those experiences can include racing thoughts, tension, rapid heartbeat, and changes to the nature of your thoughts. It's my hope that this video will help you to slow down, focus on the yarn that's in front of you, and find some mindful intention. When you change your overall stress level, you'll see that your tension will come down, and hopefully the nature of your stressful thoughts will change as well. This video is designed for people with a basic level of crochet experience. We're going to be using single crochets, double crochets, a couple of clusters, and maybe a fancy stitch or two. Don't worry if you don't have any experience with crochet. It's my intention to do a beginner's tutorial in the next week or so. For this tutorial, you'll need a medium-sized crochet hook. I'm using a G. And as many colors of yarn as you would like. I'm using about 7 colors of yarn. For this video, I also want to give a shout out to... Alright, so as we begin our mystery project, I want you to consider keeping a notepad handy so that you can jot some notes down about your experience. Before we start, I want you to check in with yourself. And you know, it might be helpful to do that at the end of every round. Just take a moment to check in with yourself about your experience. But before we begin the project overall, ask yourself, how would you rate your stress right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest you've ever experienced, and 10 being the highest you've ever experienced. Right now, in this 5 minutes, how would you rate your stress? Maybe make a note of that. And as we get ready to begin, take a deep breath, soften your forehead, relax your jaw, check in with your body, if there's any tension in your shoulders, stomach, thighs. Give it a wiggle, see if you can loosen some of that out. So we're going to start our project by making a magic ring. Now again, I am assuming that if you're watching this video, you have some of the basics of crochet down, but if you don't, that's okay. We're going to use mostly simple stitches here, so some single crochet, some double crochet, a slip stitch, and a couple of combinations of those things. So it's my hope that you'll be able to follow along with me. If not, I do think you can find this pattern online, but because this is a mystery project, I want you to do your best just to follow along and see if the act of focusing on the crochet brings you any type of mindful or meditative experience. So we're going to start by making a magic ring, and I like to do that by taking the tail end of my yarn and wrapping it around my middle finger twice. This lets me hold the rest of the yarn in between my pointer finger and my thumb. Now I'm using a G hook here. You can probably use whatever hook you have laying around somewhere in the mid-range. So to start our magic circle, I'm going to insert my hook under these first 2 loops, grab the yarn, pull it under, and then I'm just going to take my hook out. So right there you can see a loop. Now keep these 2 fingers together because you got to hold the structure of the circle until you start making knots. So now I'm going to take my hook and put it back in that same loop but coming from underneath, right? And I'm going to yarn over and pull it through. Now we've just made essentially a chain stitch in this magic circle. All right, so now I can let that finger go because we've made a knot and it's not going anywhere. So you can see we have the leftover tail here, and I'm just going to move that behind my middle finger just to hold it out of the way. So now I'm holding it on the back end, not the front. So our pattern tells us to crochet 10 single crochets in this magic circle. So I'm going to put my hook under that circle, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through. That is 1 single crochet. And you can see this loop right here. That's the single crochet. So I'm going to do that 9 more times. Yarn over, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, I'm going to pull my finger out of that circle there, and you can see that we have an open magic circle. Now what makes it magic is that it closes to form a nice tight circle. So when you're doing any type of project that works in circles, your center isn't going to fall apart on you. So I'm just going to lay my hook down, and I'm going to grab both ends of the yarn, the tail end and the end that's still attached, and I'm just going to pull. And you can see, brought it together here like this. Now to close the magic ring, all we really have to do is insert our hook into the first single crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop. We have 2 on our hook there. If we were to yarn over and pull through, that would be a single crochet, but we're just doing a slip stitch here, which is what you often do to close rounds. So I'm just going to take that same yarn that I just pulled up a loop on and pull it through our first loop. And now, as we move on to our second round, we are going to create some petals, some petal looking things here around this circle. So this is maybe going to seem a little complicated if you've not done crochet before, because it involves putting a whole bunch of stitches into one stitch. So instead of doing, say, the single crochet into this single crochet and another one into this, we're going to do about 4 into this one. Then we're going to skip this one and do about 4 into this one, and so on. Follow along. Hopefully you'll see what I mean. All right, so we're going to chain 1 just to give us a little wiggle room, just to get going. And in this first stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. So we've done chain 1, single crochet. Then we're going to chain 1 to give us a little bit of room. And we're going to do 3 double crochets in that same stitch that we've just started working in. So you can see here's the hole, right, where we put our hook every time. To do a double crochet, you yarn over before you insert your hook. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2, and yarn over and pull through the second 2. So that is 1 double crochet. So we're going to do 3 of those in that same spot. So I need to do 2 more. And we're going to end it in reverse order of how we started. So that means we're going to do another chain, again giving us a little bit of room, and end with a single crochet just like we started. So you can see our circle, our mysterious beginning, and our first, I'm calling it a petal. I don't know that that's what it's supposed to be, but that's what it makes me think of. All right, so we've done that once. We're now going to skip a stitch and repeat that till we make it all the way around. So we're going to skip this stitch. So if we were doing it again in the next one, that's where our hook would go, but we're not. We're going to do it in the next one, right here. So put my hook back where we started, skip this one and start again. So we're going to do single crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochets, going to chain 1 again, and I'm going to put my hook back in that same spot and single crochet. Now I'm going to skip this one and start again. Single crochet, chain, 3 double crochets, chain 1, and single crochet to close it off. You can see here's our mysterious circle at the beginning, and we've got 3 petals so far. So we're going to skip this stitch and we're going to go to the next one. Single crochet, chain, double crochet 3 times, chain, and single crochet. Notice any reactions or frustrations that you may be having. If you have some experience doing crochet, this may seem like old hat to you. If you're brand new, this is maybe a little bit advanced for someone who's brand new, but I hope that you are patiently following along and observing your experience as you do so. Careful not to hold your breath. Okay, so there's where we were working. We're skipping this one, and we've got one last stitch to work in. So single crochet, chain, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain, and single crochet. Okay, so that is the end of our first round of stitching outside of our magic ring there. Again, this is a mystery project, so we don't know where this is going. And as I think about that, that reminds me a lot of what it means to be working from home right now. For a lot of us, we don't know when we're going to go back to work, and for some of us, if we're going to go back to work. And the new normal right now is for us to learn to sit with that uncertainty. This is a time to let go of control. We certainly don't have a lot of control at our disposal, so I hope that this project will symbolize some of that experience for you. You'll notice here I'm just pulling out little dog hairs. As I was preparing for this, my dog had a nice roll around in my yarn. And again, that's just part of the experience as well. So what we're going to do, because I'd like to go ahead and change colors, is I'm going to yarn over and pull through. This is just going to kind of close that off. Pull up a little bit of length of yarn there. That's going to allow me to be able to weave in my ends later. And I'm going to snip it. Just pull this out. Okay. So now I'm going to grab a length of the next color. There we go. So we've got our hook in the last loop that we had. I'm going to create a loop here just by putting it over my finger and pulling my finger out of there. pull that through. I am going to insert my hook, draw up a loop, and pull that same loop through the one that was on my hook. And what that does is create what we call a slip stitch. It's just a tight little way to join the yarn to the last part of the pattern. So I'm going to chain 3 here, and this chain 3 mimics a double crochet. Okay, so now we're going to begin a crochet cluster. So what that is when we create the look of 3 stitches, which actually, instead of having 3 stitches on the top, just has 1 stitch on the top. So you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, draw up a loop, pull through the first 2, yarn over, insert my hook, pull through the first 2. One more time, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up the first 2. So you should have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, and draw through. So you can see we've got multiple stitches down here, but just 1 on the top right here. I don't know if you can see that. So now we need to chain 3, no, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to put a double crochet right here at the top of the petal. So draw up a loop, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, and there's 1 double crochet. We're going to chain 5 again. So remember, a chain is just that. You just yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to make another cluster. So this is going to look like the cluster in between each petal, and then a little double crochet on the top of each petal. So again, this is probably the most complicated part of the pattern. Pull through 2, yarn over, insert my hook back into the same stitch, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. Yarn over, insert my hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. There should be 4 loops on your hook, so you can yarn over and pull through all 4. So we're going to chain 5 again. And we're going to put a double crochet right here at the top of this petal. So yarn over, insert my hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, and pull through the second 2. Chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, insert my hook into that skipped stitch in between those petals, yarn over, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over again, pull through the first 2, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, 4 loops on the hook, means we're ready to go, so yarn over and pull through all 4. And there's your cluster. Let's chain 5 again. Okay. I'm going to put a double crochet here at the top. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Chain 5. Another cluster. Yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop. First 2. Four loops on my hook means I'm good. Yarn over and pull through all 4. Chain 5 again. Double crochet at the top of this petal here. Insert my hook, pull up a loop, pull through the first 2, pull through the second 2. Got 1 more cluster, so first we got to chain 5. Again, creating some space here between each petal. We're going to yarn over to start any double crochet. We're going to insert our hook there into that skipped stitch from the last row. Drop a loop, pull through the first two. Yarn over, insert my hook, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the first two. Now we've got 4 loops on the hook. We can yarn over and pull through all 4. Chain 5. Double crochet into the top of the last petal. Chain 5 again. And insert your hook into the top of the first chain 3 that we did there. Hold on, let me show you. So 1, 2, 3. Right there is where we want that bad boy. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through. That's a slip stitch. All right, let's see what we've got so far. Sort of a flower looking thing, right? With another layer of flowers. Petals maybe around it. Not necessarily making a flower, not trying to give anything away here. But again, we are engaging in a mindful exercise, which involves repetitive movement, counting, and focusing. Our hope is that as the frustration of not knowing what you're creating comes up, that you will be able to move through that experience of frustration and come out on the other side. And that's really what healthy coping is all about. Rather than hiding from emotions or making them go away, finding a way to move through or with those emotions. Okay, I think I want to keep this red color for one more round. And what we're going to do is create 6 double crochets in each of these spaces here. And then we're just going to do 1 double crochet in the top of the cluster. So it's really just going to look like a whole bunch of double crochets all the way around. This is one of my favorite parts. So I'm going to chain 3. That's how you would start off any row of double crochets. I'm going to yarn over and put my hook under this chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, and pull through the second 2. And there's a double crochet. I'm going to do that 6 times here in this space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Now, in the top of each double crochet or double crochet cluster, we're just going to put another double crochet. Yarn over, insert my hook underneath the little V shape, yarn over, pull up a loop. Again, you should have 3 loops on your hook at the start of the double crochet. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. Okay, and we're just going to keep doing that all the way around. And I say that this is my favorite part because I don't really have to do a whole lot of thinking here. This allows me to focus on the feeling of the yarn, the stroke of the hook, and sometimes my breath as well. I don't really have to think too much about it. And when I do that type of repetitive movement, it does start to feel meditative. The definition of mindfulness is just to pay attention on purpose. As I get going here, I can pay attention to the sensations in my body. I can pay attention to the thoughts that enter my mind, or all I have to pay attention to is the stitch that I'm making at any given moment, just one stitch at a time. Oops, sometimes I get ahead of myself, and that's okay. Just remind myself to slow down, take a breath, and keep going. Use some self-compassion here. Remind myself that this doesn't have to be perfect. This isn't about perfection. This is a mindful moment for myself. And as I'm new to recording myself doing either crochet or mindfulness, I'll tell you that I'm aware of certain thoughts creeping into my awareness. Some of those are fear of judgment, worry that those of you who are expert in crochet will judge my technique, or in some ways parts of this are a little sloppy. I also worry that those of you who are brand new to crochet, who came here maybe to learn and be mindful at the same time, will find that I'm working too fast or that the pattern is too complicated. And I'm just letting those thoughts come into my awareness and leave my awareness. I understand that you can always reach out to me and let me know if you like or don't like the pattern or this pace, and that there's nothing I can do about that right now. So all I really have to focus on right now is what's right in front of me, my stitches. And those thoughts can go back the way they came. And each time those thoughts come up, I just acknowledge that they're there and let them go. I don't try to push them down. I don't try to ignore them. Just let them come and let them go. And one of the very nicest things about crochet is that as you begin counting, you don't really have a lot of room to entertain a lot of self-judgment and harsh criticism because you're focused. It's probably have noticed in your life that it's really hard to count and do anything else at the same time. All right, so I am going to slip stitch into the top of that chain, 1, 2, 3, just like we did in our last round. And that's gonna conclude this round. Okay, so it doesn't look as much like a flower. Looks kind of like maybe a pomegranate, something to that effect. Blood orange, I'm not sure. And I don't have to know. Right now, I'm just here to focus my attention on the crochet. One of my favorite things again about crochet is that the repetitive work allows for stray thoughts to kind of come up into my awareness. But I don't have a lot of time to sit with those thoughts because I'm quickly moving on to the next stitch. And so they come into my awareness and I can acknowledge them and then they move on. And that is something like what Zen practitioners might call flow. So it comes in and it keeps moving. That's a lot different than emotional avoidance where we stuff all those things down. Okay. So we're going to get ready to move on to our next row, and it's going to be another relatively easy one. I am going to slip stitch through here, pull that through, cut that off, and we're done with the red. I'm going to move on to an orange color. Interesting. So again, you may have one color of yarn or 15 colors of yarn, and that's okay. You can adapt this to whatever works for you. If you have one color of yarn, instead of snipping and changing colors each round, you'll just keep going. If you have 20 colors of yarn, you may change colors a little more than I do. I use basically the same color for every 2 rounds. I think I have about 10 colors here that I'm going to use. So for our next round, we are going to put our hook back in the same place it just came from. Again, I'm going to do a little loop, pull it through, and I'm actually going to, just to make this nice and tight, I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch we just came out of, pull up a loop, and pull that through, just to tightly make sure that that orange color is in there. Okay. So now I am going to make a double crochet, but because we've just joined this yarn, we can't do that. So to imitate a double crochet at the beginning of any round, you're just going to chain 3. It doesn't look exactly like a double crochet, but you can see here, like in this cluster, we started with a double crochet, a chain, and it looks pretty similar on the side. So that is my double crochet. I'm actually going to chain 3. And I'm going to skip 3. 1, 2, 3, and in my 4th stitch there, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, and pull through the second 2. So we've made a double crochet. Now I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So I'm going to be chaining 3, skipping 3, and double crocheting in the 4th. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Really good time to work on some deep breathing. Maybe inhale to your chains and exhale while you work your double crochet. So something like this, watch. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and you don't have to do it that way, but while you're focusing, just be careful not to hold your breath. Deep breath has so many powerful healing qualities to it. That increase in oxygen just does so much for your body. So whether I'm doing the inhale, exhale thing along with the crochet or not, I am using this round to focus on my breath. The interesting thing about deep breathing that my clients sometimes find when we're doing these exercises is that when they first start the deep breathing, they can only inhale for maybe 4 or 5 seconds. But by the end of the exercise, they can inhale for 8, sometimes 9 seconds. But what's most important is the exhale, the slow, controlled exhale. So not right, but all right, so we've reached the end of our circle here, and again, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, insert my hook there, pull up a loop, pull that through the same loop that was already on our hook, and we're done there. So if you've got 20 colors of yarn, this is where you're going to want to change colors again. But again, I'm doing about 2 colors of yarn. Excuse me, 1 color of yarn per 2 rounds. So I'm getting ready to start our next round. All right, so we are going to create another petal-like structure. And what we're going to do is put that through each of these spaces here. And then we're going to put a single crochet on the top of each of these double crochets. So we'll do a hump, a single crochet, a hump, a single crochet, a hump, and a single crochet. To make our hump, makes me think of Beyonce, we're going to, we're going to start by doing a single crochet under that chain. So put your hook under there, drop a loop, yarn over, and pull through the 2. That's a single crochet. And then you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to do 3 double crochets. So under, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. That's 1 double crochet, yarn over, put my hook under there, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. That's my second double crochet. The nice thing about doing a stitch around a chain like we're doing here is that you can actually move them, right? So I can just pull those together. So we got to do 1 more double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over to begin with, insert my hook under, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. So I've got 3 double crochets there. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet. All right, and so you can see there's our first hump. It's kind of going over this chain around that we had made previously. Got to put a little bit of space between each hump. So I'm going to insert my hook there, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. That's just a single crochet. So do it again, single crochet, chain, 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1 and single crochet, and there's our second hump. And I'm going to insert my hook here and do another single crochet on top of this double crochet from the previous round, and I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. Another nice thing about this type of repetitive movement is that it really helps you to identify what you're feeling in your body. It also helps with grounding. So grounding is a word that we use to describe connecting with your 5 senses. Obviously, crochet is going to use a lot of the sense of touch, right? Because you're going to be feeling the texture of the yarn. It's going to involve a lot of vision because you're looking at the shapes that you're making. You're looking at the colors and how they work together. But as I mentioned before, if you're doing some mindfulness of the breath, then you may also be getting sensations through your nose. And if you're listening to music or sitting in a quiet place, you may be hearing your breath, you may be hearing your heartbeat, you may be hearing the music, right? But it really asks you, the task of crocheting asks you to be in your body. Suddenly find myself wondering if this is recording. It is, so I had to check that. And we're just going to keep going. Single crochet, chain, 3 double crochets, not in a cluster, right, but just sitting next to each other. And chain, single crochet to finish it out, single crochet to separate them. And again, I'm not being real super precise here because for me, this isn't something that is about the quality of the product. It's about me giving myself the space and the time to bring my focus to one thing, to really center myself. So I'm not reading the news, I'm not watching the daily coronavirus brief, I'm not supporting friends or family in this moment. I'm actually doing this to bring my thoughts to one central place. And, you know, I'm working relatively fast here, but you can slow this way down if you want, especially if you're a beginner. So for instance, let's slow this down. We've got almost half of this circle left to do here, so we can really slow this down. And we can take a step back and look at the progress of our work. Started off thinking we had maybe a flower, and then it looked like maybe an orange or something. Now, I don't know what this might look like to you. It kind of says Ferris wheel to me. Maybe the London Eye, I don't know. But right now, I don't have to know. I am working this exercise in not knowing. Okay, so again, we're going to go slowly. We're going to take our hook, which still has one loop on it. We're going to go under the chain, we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops on our hook for a single crochet. The next stitch is a chain, so we're going just to yarn over and pull through the loop on our stitch for 1 chain. The next stitch is a double crochet, so we're going to yarn over, put our hook under the existing chain, yarn over, draw up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. We're going to do 2 more double crochets, and so a double crochet again always starts with the yarn over, so yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. Starting again, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. The next stitch is a chain, so we just yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. The last stitch in this hump is a single crochet, so we're going to insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the 2 on our hook, and that's it. That's your, I guess if this is a Ferris wheel, that makes that a bucket. I like humps though, it makes me think of Beyonce. So again, we're putting a single crochet at the top of each double crochet from the previous round. So I've just done that, and I'm starting over. Single crochet, chain, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, chain, single crochet. All right, single crochet, single crochet, chain, 3 double crochets, chain, and single crochet. I don't know about you, I am feeling better already as we're working this project. Maybe it's because I'm focusing on my breath. Maybe it's because I'm not thinking about stressful things with work or family. Maybe it's because the repetitive movements initiate bilateral stimulation in my brain, which is thought to have a healing effect as well. There's a number of positive movements and behaviors that are associated with this project. And again, I'm working relatively quickly again, but this is repetitive, and so it does tend to speed up as you get more and more comfortable with it. We're getting close to the end of this round, also the end of this color. As I do that, I always look forward to changing colors. Sometimes a change like that is just pleasant, something to look forward to. It's also going to bring about another shape to this project. So round and round it goes. Where it stops at this moment, only I know. Unless you're somebody who skipped to the end of the video. So I'm doing my last single crochet there. I'm just going to slip stitch into the double crochet from the last round. I'm actually going to pull that snippet because I know that I'm going to be changing colors after this. Alright, so let's take a moment and step back and look at the progress of our work. A couple of tails here coming out the side, and we'll weave those in at the end. But take this moment, look at the progress of your work, and ask yourself if you're noticing any changes in any aspects of your experience. Sometimes people will describe this as stimulating. So they were lethargic or just disorganized or unfocused before, and so this helps to stimulate some focus and attention. Some people will look at this and feel a sense of accomplishment because they've gone from having just a single piece of yarn to a shape, something that is relatively pleasant to look at. Sometimes folks will say that the act of stitching decreases anxious rumination. So rather than letting those thoughts, for instance, the thoughts that I described earlier about worrying if I am moving too fast or too slow, if I spent a whole lot of time on that, that would be considered rumination. If I thought about it over and over and over, and what can I do differently, and what if they think this, and what if they don't like that. Instead, I just, noticed that thought and let it go and went back to counting, and it was out of my head before I knew it. So this repetitive movement can help with decreasing rumination. So I'm just asking you to notice any of that. In our next round, and that we're going to do a double crochet here, and then we're going to chain, looks like 6 maybe, around, and another double crochet here, and 6, maybe 8. 8 might make that a little more comfortable. Okay, so I'm gonna again create a loop over my finger, and I always like to try and start at the same place, and you can usually see where that is because you start with a series of chains instead of the double crochet itself. So again, that looks like 3 chains here, looks different than this double crochet. So that's where we started, that's where we want to keep. So I'm just going to loosen that up actually. That's where I ended, so I can put my hook into that last loop. Again, I've got a loop here, pull it through. And I'm going to go into this next little space here and insert my hook, draw up a loop, should have 2, pull that same loop through the second one, and that's again a slip stitch, keeps me nice and tight on here. So I'm going to chain 3. Again, that mimics the double crochet that we're doing in between each of these humps. And I'm going to go ahead and chain 6. That seems about right, yeah. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, pull through the first 2, and pull through the second 2. So I've got like a little chain kind of going around those humps that we made earlier. Yarn over to make a chain 6 times. So you can actually count these if you've never done that before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to do 1 more. And I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, 6, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. So this is hopefully looking a little bit familiar to you. This is similar to something we've already done. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I'm just going to repeat this all the way around, and I'm going to come back to you when I'm done with that. All right, so now we are finished with the, I don't remember what round we're on, 9th round maybe. Take a minute here to pull out dog hair and my hair and any other hairs that seem to have made their way into our project. And again, I'm going to take a second here just to notice how I'm feeling. I'm going to rate my stress again on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest I've ever felt and 10 being the highest. And I'm going to look back to what I wrote down at the beginning of the project and just see if there's been a change in that stress level. And I think there has. There really has. I feel like my breath is more steady and deeper. I feel like my heart rate may have slowed down. I'm also aware of feeling disconnected from negative worry thoughts that I was feeling beforehand. That's not to say that they aren't still there and that they aren't still real. They do creep into my awareness, but rather than being one with those thoughts, it's just one other thing that sort of happens and passes through. Okay, so as we begin this next round, I'm going to do a series of double crochets over this space, and it looks like I'm going to just skip this and keep going around with my double crochets. So let's see, how many is that? 6. So the same number of chains. So chain 3, skip, and do 6 double crochets around that chain that we just built. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can kind of see what that looks like there. Oops. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, I'm not worried about things like gauge for this particular project. So that means I'm not worried about how tight my stitches are. I'm also using a bunch of random scrap yarn, which means that some of them are looser than others. There's worsted weight, there's baby weight. I've got all sorts of different yarns here that I'm using. So that's going to change the tightness of the stitch, right? Because of the weight of the yarn. So if you're like me and you're using a bunch of scrap yarn, don't necessarily expect it to be a consistent gauge or tightness throughout the whole thing. And again, I'm going to do this all the way around. And as I do, I'm going to check in my body. Right now, you can't see this because it's under the desk that I'm sitting at, but I'm wiggling my toes. Oh, you probably just heard my ankles crack as I wiggle my ankles. I'm really just trying to pay attention, again on purpose or mindfully, to the tension that is in my body. I do tend to clench my thighs really tightly when I crochet, so I have to take a second, kind of wiggle that out. Also just enjoying this quiet moment to breathe deeply. Enjoying the spring color that I'm working with here. It's bright and cheerful. And there's just not a lot of judgment that I'm sitting with right now, and that's so nice. During the coronavirus, a lot of my clients have been saying things to me like, I don't know what I should be doing or should be feeling. And I think we're all wrestling with that to some degree. But what my hope for my clients and for myself and for you as you work on this project is that you'll let go of some of that judgment and exercise some self-compassion. There's a wonderful mental health professional named Kristen Neff, and she's got some really good YouTube videos on self-compassion. And if you think that's something that you might benefit from, I encourage you to check that out. Another great resource is Brené Brown. If you haven't heard of her, I encourage you to check her out. She is an expert on vulnerability and shame. And during this time, I don't think most of us have ever been as vulnerable as we are now. We may not be really good at letting that vulnerability sit in our awareness. We may are somebody that likes to keep really busy and distract ourselves from that feeling of vulnerability. Or maybe we like to drink or use other substances to numb ourselves from that sense of vulnerability. But that can only get us so far. And unfortunately, drinking and drug use is not a sustainable way to deal with the feelings of vulnerability that we're all confronting right now. So Kristen Neff, Brené Brown, those are some great resources, and I encourage you to check those out. This yellow yarn I once used to string a puzzle all the way around my house so my husband could find his birthday present. And so it's after he found his present, I tried to wind it back up, and like the ball of yarn is just a mess. So If you see me pause every so often, it's because I have to detangle or pull a thread of yarn out of the mess. I think there's probably another metaphor there, though, you know, thinking about how the different fibers of our life kind of come together, sometimes in a mess and sometimes in a nice, neat little way. And it's our job, again, to kind of carefully and non-judgmentally tease those threads apart. Again, this is a mystery project, although you're starting to see it take shape here. We don't know what this is going to be, and it asks us to sit with some degree of uncertainty or ambiguity. Again, it's not about the product today, it's about the journey. One of my favorite Miley Cyrus songs it's The Climb. Yes, I know Miley Cyrus is a contentious figure, but I like her anyway. So here we go. I'm going to slip stitch into that last chain just to kind of finish off that yellow. All right, so coming along. We're going to change colors now to, I don't know, a cerulean blue. I think that's what the lady from The Devil Wears Prada called this particular color. Okay, so we've got our next color. Again, nice spring-like color. We're going to create a loop, insert our hook where we left off, pull it through. Then I'm going to insert my hook again, pull it through, and slip stitch. Just again, tightly get my colors on there. Oh, and you can see I've got a little fiber over here that didn't go where it was supposed to go. We're just going to leave that there. Call it a happy little tree. Happy little yarn fiber. Does its own thing, dances to the beat of its own drum, that kind of metaphor. All right, so I'm going to chain one, and I'm actually just going to single crochet all the way around. So this is, again, another one of those rows that doesn't require us to even count, doesn't require us to think, but it does allow a little bit of space. So the bilateral movement as we move both of our hands in the yarn facilitates some creative stimulation. It allows our sort of random thoughts to flow in and out of our conscious awareness. And hopefully it allows you to take a moment and notice what other types of thoughts are coming up for you. So I'm going to keep doing this quietly for a minute or two, and as I notice thoughts come into my awareness, I'll share those with you. So I'm currently aware that my stomach is growling. It's the end of the day, and my stomach had been upset earlier today, so I didn't eat much, and I am starting to feel the effects of that. Wow, this is probably the longest I've gone with a quiet mind in a long time. I'm actually not having many thoughts come into my awareness. Which is, perfect, right? Because I'm trying to demonstrate that experience. repetitive movement. Whoops, made an error. I'm just going to pull the yarn back out of there and start again. Thought now is occurring to me, just a replay of a conversation I had with a colleague earlier in the day. It's not important right now, and so I'm able to disconnect from that, put some space. I notice myself having a thought of the conversation I had earlier in the day. That's a strategy that you can use to disconnect yourself from some of your more painful thoughts. Rather than just thinking the thought, say for instance, nobody likes me. Rather than just thinking nobody likes me, say to yourself, I notice myself having the thought that nobody likes me. And just see if that feels a little bit different. For me, one almost sounds like a fact, and one sounds like just a piece of data for consideration. It doesn't have to mean anything more than that. All right, now we've come to that happy little accident from the beginning of the round, and I'm just going to insert my hook where we started there, just slip stitch through to close that off. And again, I'm just going to kind of flatten my work and take a look and see how it's all coming together. All right, so our next round is going to look like some double crochets, and then we're going to do a fancy single crochet where we're actually going to come down all the way back down to here, single crochet, and bring it back up. So it's just going to be like a long V that kind of goes down there. So we're going to chain 3. And I'm going to double crochet all the way around. So insert my hook there in that space under the last stitch that we made, pull up a loop, pull the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. All right, now as we approach the double crochet from 2 rounds ago, we are going to do something a little bit different because of the gauge of that yarn. So I'm actually going to go down even further to this orange. Pull up a big loop all the way up here, yarn over, and pull through. Alright, so I'm actually not too sure about this particular stitch, but as I want to practice what I preach and not focus on the product, really just focus on the journey, I'm going to let it ride. So again, let me fix that where I pulled that out of there. Double crochet. Then I'm going to reach all the way down here. Maybe I'll just wrap around that yellow there. Pull up a long loop, yarn over, and pull through. And I'm going to keep double crocheting around. Ooh, yeah, I'm aware that that doesn't look like I normally like them to look, but that's not my point today. And as I just sat there for a minute trying to figure out a new stitch for myself, I noticed my stomach got a little tighter. So I'm going to do some deep breathing here and really see if I can work some of that out. Okay, and as I'm doing this thing here that we're doing, I'm going to try and be real loose with the yarn because I don't want it to like buckle the whole mandala there. So just real loose and yarn over and pull those through too. Those pull through those 2 loops. Okay, so then we're going to yarn over and we're going to keep double crocheting around. So that's kind of neat looking, right? It brings like this little cross hatch around the ones that we have been working on before, and actually I kind of like it. So I wasn't too sure about it when I first started working on it. I actually had to pause the video for a second and make sure that I was reading my pattern correctly, and eventually I just had to let go of my concern and trust the process. And you know, who knows if I'm actually doing it the way the pattern wants me to, but I do kind of like the way it's turned out, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah, I'm just going to keep doing it. Okay, so let me just talk you through it so you know exactly what we're doing here. I don't want you to feel the tightening in your stomach that I felt when I first started trying to figure this one out. So we're doing our double crochet. So again, yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over the first 2, yarn over the second 2. Insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. Doing that all the way around, and then occasionally when we get to the spot that overlaps with this double crochet from 3 rounds ago actually, we're going to do something kind of unique. So I'm going to pull this a little bit just to give it some wiggle room. I'm going to come down here to this post, put my hook behind it, yarn over, and I'll very loosely pull this yarn up until it comes all the way up here to the top where we were to begin with. I've got 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through those 2, and just gently tighten it, not too much because again we don't want it to like pinch and buckle. We want that nice teardrop loop thing there. So again, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the next single crochet, pull up a loop, got 3 loops on my hook, so I'm going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while I continue doing this, and I want you to focus on your breathing, focus on keeping your body loose, and noticing any thoughts that come up as you find yourself very probably confused about this new stitch. like I just did there. I accidentally started at like a double crochet. I had too many loops on my hook, so I had to go back and start again. And there's nothing wrong with that, because again, all we're trying to do here is give ourselves a mindful moment. Okay, so I have just done this new stitch all the way around on the pattern. They're calling it a spike single crochet. So it's essentially a single crochet. You come down here, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the 2 loops. So that's what makes it a single crochet, even though it's so unique. I tell you what, that was a special kind of experience. It's been a long time since I've encountered a new single crochet stitch, so you got to be there with me for that and see how, you know, sometimes you have no idea what you're doing and it turns into something that's relatively nice to look at. Again, this is a good time for checking in with your body and seeing if you're noticing any tension as we get ready to move on to the next round. So what we're going to do on the next round, it looks like, is here where we have this new spike single crochet. We're going to do a cluster, looks like 3 double crochets, and then we're going to do chain 6 and then a cluster of 3 double crochets. It's time to change colors though, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to pull that. Actually, you'll see I left this last bit open just so you could see how I closed it. So I've just finished this spike single crochet and I'm going to insert my hook here at the top of the chain 3 from the beginning, pull off a loop, pull that through. Now we're done. Clip that. Now we're moving on to a nice royal blue color. You can see I've got a knot here, and again, part of the process. I'm going to be careful not to let myself get too worked up about that. And I'm going to carefully see if I can disentangle some of these threads. This is actually one of my favorite things to do. It's to untangle knots. I know that's a weird thing. Okay. Something about untangling knots just feels like solving a puzzle, seeing the product of my work, which I really enjoy. So again, I always like to do a nice tight slip stitch when I'm joining a color. So here we are doing that. We're gonna do double crochet, clusters, and chains. So chain 3, and we're gonna chain 6 across here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And remember that a double crochet cluster, again, I'm going to yarn over first, insert my hook, drop a loop, pull through the first 2, and I'm going to do it again before I finish it. So yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, pull through my first 2, got 3 loops on there now, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2. Now I've got 4 loops on my hook, and I'm ready to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And that creates our double crochet cluster. Okay, nice drink of tea, and again, adding another experience to my 5 senses. Taste. Love that tea. So I'm going to chain 6, going to do another double crochet cluster. So yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4. Okay, just want to take a second and again observe all of my senses here. So I'm noticing the colors of the yarn, I'm feeling the texture of the yarn, and I can compare that to the texture of my desk. This desk is very special to me actually. It was in my childhood furniture, so I've had this since I was like 10 years old. I'm going to reach over for one of my favorite cups, which brings me some simple pleasure. It's got the crew of the original series of Star Trek there. I'm going to enjoy the nice warmth from the tea, the smell of the orange, and the sweetness from the honey. Okay, nice little break. I'm just going to keep going with my chain 6. Insert my hook, start the double crochet cluster. Oops, I just finished that double crochet, didn't I? So in crochet, when we make a mistake and we pull out the yarn and start over, we call it frogging, which is a funny play on the word ribbit. Like ribbit is the sound a frog makes, right? So we're going to rip the yarn out. I'm going to carefully put my hook back in. I'm just going to start over. Insert my hook, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first two, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 4. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and finish this round. I'm trying to beat the sun here. I'm trying to record this video before the sun goes down. So I will see you at the end of this round. And just so you know, if your project starts to like buckle in and it feels like it's too tight, again, remember I'm changing between yarn gauges and stuff here, so the pattern may need just a little adjusting. If you find that it's too tight and it's starting to buckle, you can do more than 6 chains here, and that'll give you a little more space. So maybe like 7 or 8 would be helpful. Okay, so we've come to the end of that round. Again, we can pull up our little tails over to the side just so we can have those out of the way and get an idea of what we're looking at here. So by now I hope you have come to figure out that our mystery project is in fact a mandala. Mandalas are commonly used in meditative practices. You've probably seen the coloring books that are really popular, and so that's what we're doing here. Because again, coloring is another potentially meditative practice. Anything can really be meditative if you're doing it with the intention of observing your thoughts on purpose. Washing your dishes, going for a run, cleaning your house, petting your dog, mowing your yard. A lot of people find vacuuming to be incredibly meditative. They really enjoy seeing those nice clean lines in the carpet as they vacuum. But as long as you're doing that with the intention of observing your thoughts, letting them come and go mindfully, it's not the act itself, it is the intention that you bring to it. All right, So we're going to do another round of this royal blue here, and we are just going to single crochet, single crochets. I don't know how I managed to do that. So if you chain 6, you're going to do 6 single crochets. If you chain 7, you're going to do 7, and then be sure you also do a single crochet in the top of the double crochet cluster from the round before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again I'm doing this pretty loosely. This is going to end up being a good sized mandala. 1 in the top of the cluster, then 1, 2, 3, 1 in the top of the cluster. 6 more. Okay, I will join you again when we've made it to the end of the round. Okay, so we've made it to the end of the royal blue circle. So at this point, again, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and check in with your body and notice if there's any physical tension that may need released. Wiggle your arms and your legs. If you've ever done progressive muscle relaxation, it's a technique to relax that involves tightening and releasing of muscles. You could do that. Take a moment to make sure you're letting go of any tension that you may be holding on to. At this point, we're going to shift to our purple yarn. It's violet, I guess. To join this purple yarn, again, same way we have for every round. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that loop, create a slip stitch. Now we're going to essentially be making like a hump like we had been previously in the area that is this cluster. So I'm going to chain 1, then I'm going to do 3 double crochets, and chain 1, close that up with a single crochet. Actually, let's back that up. I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to frog that, put my hook there. Let's just do 3 double crochets in this same spot here. And then I'm going to chain like 8 or 9, 10. Let's chain 10. Bring that all the way over here. Insert our hook. We're going to do 3 double crochets. from the same starting stitch. And we're going to chain 10. And we're going to do that all the way around. Take your time. Don't rush this. If you have to pause and take a drink of tea, if you have to pause and release any tension from your arms and legs and jaw and forehead, do that. You can always come back to this later. Okay, so we have made it almost all the way around this last round here. And essentially you can see that we have laid a foundation for a similar circle to what we did here with the blue. So at this point, I want to mention the concept of mastery. So this is something that we talk a lot about in our anxiety workshop at CAPS. This is a concept that comes up a lot in dialectical behavior therapy, which is a famous approach to mood regulation. Mastery is a concept of basically learning how to do something with skill. So it may be something that you don't really enjoy to begin with, but over time you build skill and you become good at it. So if your project is looking a little sloppy or a little uneven at this point, think about this as an effort in mastery. So this is, again, is not about how it turns out, but about the mindful intention that you bring to the project. And if you need a little reframe, then think about it as an effort in mastery. So I think this is going to be our last round. It doesn't have to be. You could carry this on for days and days, but we're running out of daylight. So again, I've got my 10 chain here, and I'm just going to insert that into the top of our cluster, and I'm going to slip stitch to close that last round. Okay, so what we're going to do now, 5 single crochets, and then we're going to do what's called a picot, which is just a cluster of single crochets. And we're going to do 5 more single crochets. Going to single crochet through the top of this, 5 picot, 5 single crochet, 5 picot 5. Okay, so that means we need to do a single crochet in the loop that we began with, another single crochet. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now picot is really interesting. I'm actually going to do a 6th one here, and then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm just going to come back down into that single crochet and slip stitch, and then keep single crocheting. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I guess technically I did 11 single crochets because I did my picot on top of a single crochet. So picot is this little pointy nub right here that we've created. I'm not sure I did it exactly right, but again, I don't really care because that's not what we're here for today. Take a moment to enjoy my tea before it goes cold. The weight of my giant dog down here on my feet. I'm going to single crochet in the top of these 3 double crochets. I'm going to do 5 single crochets around this chain that we created. And on the 6th one, I'm going to do a picot. Okay, So we are finished up with our mandala. You can see here that I just joined the last stitch there and did a slip stitch. I'm going to pull that yarn off, snip it, and pull that out of there. So all that's left to do now is to flip it over and weave in all these leftover ends, which is the worst part of crocheting, but has to be done. So if all you have is a crochet needle, then you can just weave it in like so, forward and backwards, just once or twice, so that when you cut it, you can be sure that it's not coming out of there. So did that. I'm going to trim it there. And I'm going to do that all the way through here till I'm done. So that is it for the Crochet and Mindfulness Mystery Project. I hope that you have found this to be enjoyable, relaxing. At this point, go ahead and check in with yourself one more time on a scale of 1 to 10 in this 5 minutes. How stressed do you feel? 1 being the least stress ever, 10 being the most. And just take a second to look back over the notes that you took about your experience throughout. So how stressed were you at the beginning compared to the end? Did you notice any emotions throughout? Creativity, accomplishment, focus? Did you notice your thoughts drifting a lot or staying on the task at hand? Did you notice yourself forgetting about some of the things you may have been stressed about before the project began? Just take a moment to reflect over the experience and be sure to check in with your body and see how you feel. If there's any tension, give it a wiggle and see if you can relax. This has been the first of our Crochet and Mindfulness series, and we will do this again in a week or two. Thanks for joining.